Thank you, Lori. All right. So thanks so much for just taking that quick break. I really appreciate that. We all needed a little one. I'd love to introduce now one of our distinguished ISBM fellows, Dr. Gerry Tellis. Um, Dr. Tellis is the Neely Chaired Professor of American Enterprise. He's Director of the Institute for Outlier Research and Marketing, Director of the Center for Global Innovation at the USC Marshall School of Business, and again, one of our most distinguished ISBM fellows. He's an expert in innovation, advertising, social media, new product growth, and global market entry. He has published 7 books, over 200 papers, and he's won over 30,000 citations in Google Scholar. His publications have won 25 awards. He's a past president of ISMS and was the associate editor of Marketing Science and Journal of Marketing Research. If there's a question you have about this stuff, this is the guy. So please don't hold back for questions. You'd like to have them at the end of the presentation, but please just make sure that you make a note of them. I think this will be a great dialogue. And also remember, when you ask a question, if at your table you just press the button and the light will come on, you'll be able to use the microphone, and that allows our folks that are remote to hear your question too, without us having to run over to you. All right, ideation is the start of the innovation process, and it's fundamental for growth in business. So Gerry's going to review the AI literature in 3 fields, and this is a lot to come at you. Again, I hope you enjoy it. Gerry, it's all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm delighted to be here, and thanks to IBM for inviting me again. We can make this interactive. I don't have to go through the whole presentation. So you can ask questions anytime, or you can refute anything I say. However badly you refute me, it won't be as bad as the reviewers do at the journals. So I've suffered uh, a lot of abuse. So I'm going to actually present 2 papers, and at the end of the presentation, I'll have a link to my website and where you can actually get the details because there's no way I could get into all of them. So I'm going to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, in innovation and in particular in ideation. So I'll focus more on ideation than innovation. So as the previous speaker mentioned, innovation is crucial for consumers, firms, and nations. And I have a couple of books out that shows that for firms, companies, if they don't innovate, they just die. But that's also true of nations. If they don't innovate, they collapse or they die. And there was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal just 2 days ago, and they compared the EU with the US. And they said the US is constantly innovating and re-innovating itself. On the other hand, in Europe, they are moribund. That's a strong word. But they deny entry for our innovations like Airbnb and Uber and Lyft. So it's a struggle to get around in Europe, whereas here we create these innovations of the future. So if you don't, you decline. But likewise, countries have risen and fallen based on an innovation. So AI, artificial intelligence, fundamentally changes how business gets done, including how innovation gets done. And I'm going to touch and show you that. So far, apparently, a study by PwC says 74% of American firms have adopted AI. How does AI drive innovation? Is it a moderator? So here you have the key forces drive innovation: market, industry, and firm culture. And I echo the previous speaker, the importance of culture within the firm. And we think firm culture is the most important, more important than market and industry. And AI could be a moderator. It could change the relationship, but it could also be a mediator. And you'll say, why this way? Because what we find is that the most culturally adept firms adopt AI first, and that helps them innovate even better. So we're thinking more that AI is a mediator. So this culture of the firm lets you or encourages you or facilitates you to adopt AI, and then you can be more innovative. This is the old funnel model of innovation. Namely, you come up with concepts, you design and engineer, you test, and you launch. But with AI, the funnel has changed considerably. Now you can do idea generation with AI. Can you see my arrow? Yeah. And then idea screening, and then idea refinement, and so on, concepts, and then the prototype and market testing, and so on. So the front end has become a lot deeper, wider, richer with the arrival of AI. By the way, I forgot to mention at the start, we started working in this area, my co-authors, my students, and I, in 2006. So when social media just started, I think looking around the room, some of you were not born in 2006. But so we have close to 20 years of experience. And when social media started, began to go big, I realized we had the voice of the customer live for us and ready and available. And it was real, and it was with emotion and so on. And we said, how do we analyze all this enormous data? And that's when we started working with tools. We didn't have ChatGPT, obviously, then. So we used text mining and other cruder tools than the latest one now available with what are called large language models. Uh, so just a review of some of the things that people have found. So currently AI leads to more efficient opportunity identification. So even with opportunities, you can use the AI with market trends, with voice of the customer. But in future, there we'll be able to use AI in voice and video. For example, there is a study in a conference recently about how you can tell the inner workings of the mind of the consumer who's suffering, of the patient. So that's where healthcare comes in, using AI, and how willing they are to adopt new technologies for their health. And in video games, so in the old model, for video games, every line, every movement of the finger or shooting or whatever they do in video games, everything had to be coded. You had code for everything. But now there are people at the front edge who are just writing a script or dictating a script. I want this guy to raise his hand and shoot, or something like that. And it's done. Okay. So that's where we are now. Uh, and also for technology identification, I'll come back to this. There is, in the whole field of innovation, there's a big, uh, uh, what should I say, separation between voice of the customer and technology identification. And there's also a difference between radical innovation and incremental innovation. So let me ask a question here. Uh, the voice of the customer, what will it lead to? Radical innovation or incremental innovation? Increment, all of you right. On the other hand, technology identification, what will it lead to? Radical or incremental? Could be both, but radical is more likely to come from technology identification and for prompting innovators. So that's the thing to keep in mind, and I'll come back to that. So what we have found recently is that AI increases the volume and the speed of ideas, and AI helps for incremental innovations. But how do you use AI for radical innovations? And we think there are two differences here, or two ways maybe. One is the technology feed. You tell the idea person who's coming up with the idea, the innovator, tell the innovator what technologies are available. And so that's called technology feed. Or alternatively, you tell the person, the ideator or the innovator, to think of themselves as technologists. So give them that technologist mindset, and then you can use AI for idea generation. Um, So the big question now is, can AI help in screening ideas, selection of ideas, or generation of ideas? Um, and the context is crowdsourcing. I assume all of you have heard of crowdsourcing, and you know what it is. Uh, it's an an open call for ideas. It could be from insiders, R&D and marketing, or others inside the firm, or it could be outsiders, consumers, distribution, suppliers, experts. It increases the number of ideas, it increases the diversity of ideas, and it decreases costs. So it's a very, very big thing, and it's a precursor to using AI in innovation. So what is the problem? The problem is that crowdsourcing generates thousands of ideas, thousands literally, and screening by experts is costly and error prone. Who's going to sit down and do that? Even if you recruit 10 or 15 experts to screen the ideas, after they've done half a dozen, they get tired and they're prone to make errors. There's also lots of repetition in the ideas and so on. So what are the best ideas and how can we use this? Fertile area to use AI. Can AI replace humans in this? So I want to point out to you 3 levels of AI in ideation. The basic level is screen out bad ideas. There are a bunch of junk out there. When you get 2,000 or 5,000 ideas, a lot of junk. So you want to screen out bad ideas. Or better still, this is the second level, you pick the best 10 or best 20 ideas. So that's the second level. The third level is create one winning idea. And when we reach the stage, we are all out of a job. Just give it to AI, right? So it's scary. Will this come, and how long will it take to come? Will it come in 10 years or 50 years? Doesn't matter if it comes in 50 years. We'd all be retired. But if it comes in 5 or 10 years, it's scary. So the goals of the study is compare performance of 3 theory-based models, and I'll go very quickly through them. Test the performance out of sample. Does anyone know what out of sample means? Okay, so there's in sample and out of sample. So if you're trying to figure out which model is the best, you fit it on a bunch of data that you have. That's called in sample. Out of sample is you fit it on 90% of the data and keep 10% out, and then see how it performs on that 10%. So you estimate your model, the parameters from 90% predicted on that 10. And why that's important is because ideation is a rule-breaking task. So it might work for some data, but may not work for other data. So you want to keep aside. So I'll keep hitting on this again and again, out of sample. What we're doing is out of sample. And then we want to test whether any one of these theories or a combination can assist humans in selecting ideas. There's no clock around, so you'll prompt me if I'm going too slow. Lynn has gone through my whole presentation. She had me rehearse. She says only the best can come here and present. So she probably knows what's coming in. So
turned your back off.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Should I restart? I'm just kidding. So the hypothesis here, ideas whose distribution of word is similarity is close to a norm. And the norm they chose is Google search for a topic. So get this intuition if you can. I want to develop a new product for a new fiber, something I think DuPont does, something for the shoes, which is spongy, elastic, and so on. And I type that query into Google and see what it comes up with. That becomes the norm of the relationship among words. And then I see how other ideas relate to that. And they tested this with lab experiments, and they found that the combination that's closest to a Google search does the best, is the best idea. Another theory is inspiration, what we call inspiration redundancy. And that says that people with tight network of friends have less varied information exposure. Their hypothesis was tight clustering among friends leads to poorer ideas. And I think I have a picture there. So here you have a tight cluster. Here you have a moderately tight, and here you have very diverse. So this person, number one, in this cluster is likely to be the most creative because he or she is getting ideas from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different people. Whereas these people are all sharing ideas and they are not very diverse. Oh, I mean, the person in this cluster is so tight. They tested in a lab experiment, and the study supports hypothesis in sample, mind you. And a third is topic atypicality. This theory says that unconventional content grabs attention. So lyrics of songs that diverge from the average are more popular, but not completely diverge, but moderately diverge. They tested with field data in this thing, which is a level higher than just experimental data, if I may say so. And the study supports the hypothesis in sample. So our setting is 21 ideation contests run by Hive over 10 years. Hive is Austrian ideation company by a friend of mine, Johan, who started it and sold it. And he's at the University of Innsbruck. So they put out a call for ideas with deadline and awards. The contestants submit ideas. The community comments and rates ideas. They could cheat and take the best ideas, work on them, and submit just before the due date a combinatory idea which does well. Then you have a set of experts that shortlist the 10 or 15 finalists. And then you have a jury of C-suite execs that declare 1 to 3 winners. So we use this, the experts shortlist, as our dependent variable. Either it was shortlisted or not. We don't use this because then the data becomes too sparse. We don't use the actual winners. So we use the finalists as our dependent variable and see whether an idea was shortlisted or not. And then we have a bunch of variables to predict whether it does well. So here's an idea, an example of an idea. So Intel developed a new chip, and they asked Hive to get ideas. They got about a couple of thousand ideas. And these are the 3 winners. All my music on a chip, a soundtrack, and then something about turning night and day, put the chip in your glasses, and a ring. Put the chip on the ring, and you can do, test all your health figures, health data. So the third one, I think, was what became Aura. You know the Aura ring? Anyone with an Aura ring? Oh, okay. You'll tell us how good it is. And this is, I think, what went on to become Google or Facebook, the lens that they have. and so on. But not directly. These are just ideas that could have been connected. Other firms came up with them. That's what our previous speaker was saying. It's not good enough to have the best idea. You have to implement it. You have to get it out. You have to have a culture that embraces it and so on. Okay, so here's examples of two contests. We have Siemens Smart Grid Innovation and DHL, a distribution logistics for parcels. Oops, how do I go back? So there we have, one is in energy, one is in efficiency, 2,000 members who are submitting ideas, whereas in this case, 350. These are the number of ideas, 448 was 164. The comments and the messages and the evaluations and number of prizes. So we are only dealing with the submitted ideas and the prizes. There's a lot more things can be done with the messages. You can trace who commented on what and how the idea developed over its lifetime. So there's plenty, very rich data, plenty to do if you have time to waste like me. This is the caution I talked about, overfitting. In sample prediction risks overfitting. It does very well, but just in your sample. In creativity, the new idea is completely different, the new context is different, so you need out-of-sample prediction. So that's what we do, out-of-sample prediction. And we fit the model on all but n contests. In this case, we had 21 contests, so we fit it on 20, and then we predict it on the nth one that we held out. And we compute the average errors. The method we're using is lasso, which is, what could you say, higher order regression. It's just a regression. The dependent variable is 1 if the idea is shortlisted and 0 otherwise. And then in the right-hand side, the predictors are from the theories I talked about and a bunch of other variables. So here are all our predictors. Oops, screen is very sensitive. Oh, what happened? Yeah. So these are all our predictors in the middle. You don't have to worry too much about that. And then I talked about lasso. So what lasso does is that it reduces these predictors to a small important set. So it excludes or drops those that are not doing such a good job. So you're trying to be efficient. I just want a small set of important predictors. But their coefficients or their contribution will be slightly biased because I threw out the less important variables. So key results is in sample, every theory-based model has a metric in our model. So all of them are complementary. Out of sample, none of the original models with original metrics survive. So there was an issue of overfitting in the past. Out of sample, lasso keeps only one new metric, word atypicality. Atypical ideas do badly, and I'll try to give an intuition for that. Typical ideas perform the best. So you have a body of 500 to 1,000 ideas, and the most typical idea in that group wins. Now, why? So let me give you intuition of what we call word typicality. And by the way, the model is published. It was published in January of last year. And in academia, you have to reveal everything. So all the equations, everything is there. I'll show you the citation. So you can use the model. You can ask a statistician to use the model. And if you have this problem of abundant ideas, you can just run our model. Now what we're working on is to avoid all these equations and models, and we're just trying to do the same thing with ChatGPT and other competing engines. So what I call large language models, which is even less complicated and sophisticated. So why do typical ideas perform best? What are they? They are the most inclusive. So remember, people are commenting in this contest. And so the idea which has elements of all the other ideas is the most inclusive, does best. Or these are alternate explanations. It's the richest idea. It has all sorts of angles, all sorts of facets. Or it's the most detailed idea. It has all the steps you would need to take to put this into a prototype and launch it. And we couldn't distinguish with what analysis we have done so far. We couldn't distinguish between these three explanations, but it can be done. It just takes time to do all this. This is a distribution of word atypicality. So atypical ideas, that means one-liners or very short or ambiguous. Those are atypical, and there are a large number of those. But the typical, the detailed, the rich, the inclusive, there are very few of those. And those are the winners. So even if you don't use our model, just that intuition will help you if you have this problem of lots of ideas. Look at the richest, the most detail to move forward. So the Hive mandate was drop over 40% of worst ideas, lose no more than 20% good ideas. Now, to understand this, if you are in healthcare or if you're insurance, all this would be very clear. I'm assuming many of you may not work in this area. And so I have a table to explain what's going on here. So actual by judges. We have 1,000 ideas and shortlisted by experts and judges. And they say, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea. Okay? Now predicted by AI or predicted by us. It's a good idea or a bad idea. Okay, so on the right-hand side, it's what the actual judges declared. On the left-hand side is what we found out. This is called, it's a bad idea, and we said it was a good idea. That's called a false positive. It was a bad idea, and we said bad idea. That's a true negative. What the judges said is a good idea, and we said is a good idea, that's a true positive. And what the judges said is a good idea, and we said is a bad idea, that's a false negative. Now, if I take all the good ideas and I divide all the good idea, I put bad ideas, what we said are bad ideas, on and divide on top of all the good ideas, we get the FNR, which is called the false negative rate. So that's a number they talk a lot about in medicine and insurance and so on. And we had an example, it's a public example, so I can use it, of our former president did a test, or his doctors didn't do a test or did it badly, and he got a false negative, namely that he's healthy, but he's not. He's in late stage cancer. So that's a false negative. So that's the one you want to avoid. Okay? Did I explain it well? Bit tricky. And this is the output. So now again, we have two curves. By the way, I have to tell you, this took me about an hour to do, because I'm doing it with what's called animations. I'm covering up the data and then releasing a portion. So I could also do it on the board, and then it'd be much easier. Leave the graph on the left. Look at the graph on the right. And on the horizontal axis, we have the screening rate. And on the vertical axis, we have the false negative rate. So the green line is both of these are equal. The blue line is the FNR, the false negative rate. And we want the blue line to diverge from the vertical line. And this is the best. The best point is when it's furthest from the green line, and the best occurs with 44% of ideas screened out, and we lose only 14% of good ideas. Nothing is perfect, and you're going to lose. You're going to lose good ideas. But if you can cut off half your ideas and you lose only 14%, that's fine. And I was presenting this to Lynn on Friday, and she says, you still have so many good ideas to work with, right? So it doesn't matter if you lose a few good ideas. You still have a lot left. Now, the beauty of it, if you use our model, is depending on your firm's requirement in terms of screening, how much you want to screen, and depends on your firm's willingness to lose good ideas, you can choose any level on this map. Okay. Why do typical ideas, low word typicality, do well? So what's the intuition? Ideas are a bag of words. And I alluded to this earlier. It might be due to richness. The best ideas include many facets, suggest ideas that are well developed. It might be experience. Experienced ideators craft ideas that need less future development. It might be communication. Resourceful ideas detail their ideas very well. And it might be ease of judgment. Experts find it easier to judge the quality of ideas that include details. Any of these could be the reason, and they can all be tested, but we ran out of time. I'm getting old, and I'm having more and more grandkids who want me to coach and take them on walks and all that. My wife is sitting at the back, and raise your hand, Cheryl. And so we are pulling away from this sort of stuff and spending more time with grandkids. But these insights can also help ideators. So if you're an ideator in your company, or you're training people to be ideators, then these 4 principles can be good clues. So we are unable to meet AI level 3, create a winning idea. It'd be fabulous, but I and now many others have jumped into this game, and it's the next challenge. We're unable to meet even level 2, predict the best ideas. Okay, all we can do is level 1. We can screen out bad ideas. So Hive's mandate was eliminate 40% of worst ideas without losing more than 15% of good ideas. We exceed greatly, we think. We can eliminate 44% of worst ideas without losing more than 14% of good ideas. Benefits. So we can use AI to at least reduce work for experts, if not pick winners. If we reduce the work for experts, we reduce their tedium, their idiosyncrasies, and their errors. So it's still useful. And it reduces for the whole company, it reduces time and costs. So you get a bunch of ideas, 1,000 or 2,000, just throw them at a model, screen out the worst, and give the rest to judges. Now, the next question. Why is ideation so difficult for AI versus the good performance in rule-based tasks? For example, chess. So now chess, an AI in chess can beat a grandmaster. Anyone? Why is that? You're right. You're right. It's rule-based. Chess is rule-based, and there are just those rules. Whereas ideation is rule-breaking. Everyone knows the rules. You come out with a whole new rule. And I want to share this example with you. So you've heard about the Tesla? One time it was the famous Tesla, now it became infamous after Elon Musk made the blunder of his life. Anyway, anyone knows how it started? So it started with a technologist, a guy who was working with battery cells, lithium-ion battery cells. And he said the cells had become so efficient. This is 2006, mind you. He said, if I put together 6,638 cells, I will have enough power to run a battery. Sorry, to run a car. I'll have enough power in a battery car to run the car, and I can do away with the engine. That is the idea. And people laughed at him and criticized him and so on. But he plowed ahead, finally ran into Elon Musk, who put the initial money and so on. And as Lynn said, I'm a founder and director of the Center for Global Innovation. In academia, we have all these fancy titles, but small salary. So anyway, so I had once a board with a bunch of auto companies, and I was presenting them. This was 2010, I think, or 11, when the first Tesla came out. And they criticized me. They said, this can never happen. You cannot produce a car in California. It's too high labor costs. For 100 years, no auto company has started in the US. So you cannot do this. And they said, all of the knowledge is in Detroit. What will Silicon Valley have knowledge to do a car? But these foolish people, they criticized me so badly that my hand was trembling. But they plowed ahead. And when there was COVID, the Tesla took off. Sales took off. And you know that? One company was more than all the other auto companies in the world. US plus German plus Japanese. So that's what Alexa was talking about when she talked about culture. You have to run that lonely battle from 2006, you got the idea, all the way to 2020, when the market realizes the idea. So all I'm talking about now is just the ideation task and how to screen out the bad ideas and the good ideas. Okay, versus good performance in data-rich tasks. It's scary what Facebook can do. With no offense to anyone, but there are people who said, researchers who said with Facebook data, they got access to Facebook data, they can, with 90% or 85% accuracy, distinguish between gay and straight individuals. That's amazing if they can do it. That's what they claimed, and it has to be verified. But why is that face identification is so good and ideation is so difficult? Lynn is going to run a test, by the way, at the end of the day to see.
There's so many different things.
There's so much of it. There's thousands, millions, maybe billions of faces. There's so much to work with. Well, this year we had a short list with 10 winners. It's very sparse, so we can't identify the pattern in that. But we will ultimately. So novelty counts. Ideation is a rule-breaking task. Thank you. Small training set, that Rand said. We have a small number of shortlisted ideas. Human judgment is a noisy benchmark. So we are comparing a model with human judgment. And there's less learnable structure in ideation. It's, so all of these are reasons why ideation is so difficult. I had a new contest, so I ran a conference of using AI in business in March, and we had a task. We had 135 papers, and we had to find 4 to 20 winners. So I raised $20,000, and academics, the winners would get $5,000 each. Now I had to find 4 to 20 winners out of 135 papers for this conference. And we identified 4 dimensions: novelty, rigor, fits gap in the literature or in the market, and useful. So this is the learnable structure in ideation. And I think we have already published these dimensions somewhere, but that's something to keep in mind if you are in the field of ideation or in the field of evaluating ideas. Maybe if you call me 1 year next year, I might have the results. But we're just working on the data right now. I just got the winners, and now we're fitting the model. That's it. Thank you. This is our website, by the way, gtellis.net, not mine. That's how I looked in my younger days. And
you haven't gotten any updates on photographs in quite some time.
Okay.
Maybe
And
AI can do that for you.
yeah, this is the first paper I presented, a review of the role of AI in innovation. And this is the second paper I presented, Can AI Help in Crowdsourcing? So if you want to delve deeper to any of these things, but it's Q&A.
We have a question that came in from the...
So Gerry, the question is, could you comment on how AI's capacity, the relevance and comprehensiveness of AI data source to do a good in ideation?
I didn't understand. Did you? Anyone understood the question? Can you read it one more time?
How is AI's capacity, that is, as an example, the relevance and comprehensiveness of the AI data source, able to support ideation? And honestly, Trisha, if you could help us with that online.
I can answer. So that's already touched on that. Namely, we are not sufficiently ahead, but there's promise. So we have reached one of 3 levels of AI, and we need more data. So more clients need to give us data or put their data publicly and have people answer that. And then we need more winners. Right now, 5 to 10 is too little for the number of ideas, 1,000. So that's my answer. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, so kind of a follow-up then. How do you move to level 2? Do you just need more data, or what else is needed?
So with large language models, LLMs, ChatGPT and all that, we have simpler models. All you have to do is a query. Give it a query and give it this. Is the slide still up? Oh, okay. That's so this is what we're doing. How do I go back? So you have a structure, and the structure we have is those 4 dimensions: usefulness. Go up, yeah, go up. Don't show limitations. No need of this.
Sorry, that was your slide deck, but I was trying to run it for you, and I don't.
That's okay. The 4 dimensions are novelty, usefulness, fills gap in the literature, and is rigorous. So if you give the structure to a large language model like ChatGPT and say, rate all the ideas on each of these, and then you sum those ratings, and then what the company can do, it can weight. It may want novelty, or it may want usefulness. you can put weights on that and choose the winning idea. So that's our current project. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So I was wondering, one of the most special things about it, somebody has an idea, your idea comes up there. I just wonder if you see AI being special.
Yes, it could. To come up with a good idea. What you would do is the way to implement this is have 3 or 4 of these languages. So one by ChatGPT, one DeepSync or something, the Chinese one, what's it called? DeepSeek. DeepSync would be bad. DeepSeek, and then the Microsoft one, the Google one. So now you have 4 people and 4 LLMs, and you let one come up with the idea and then have the other one. You could implement that at DuPont.
You talked about the false negatives, and I believe that was based on the panel judgment, right? AI versus panel. At some point, do you see it maybe flipping where who's to say the panel is making the right choices and maybe AI becomes the benchmark?
No, it could be now. We don't know. So maybe you're right. It could be the other way around. Maybe AI had the good ideas and the judges got tired and made mistakes. So we don't know. We have not gone and talked to the CEOs of the clients of this contest to say, how about these ideas which AI came up with?
What has a greater bias towards typical, the human-based or the AI-based approach? Because that kind of answers that question a little bit, right? Because I understand the bias towards the typical of AI, right? Which is it's based on existing knowledge, not the unknown. So if it has a higher bias towards typical, that could be a good baseline on which a judge could then say whether or not that actually addresses the unmet need better or the unknown part.
Right? That's a very good point. Yes.
That was
I don't have the answer,
right.
but it's something we can look into.
Your model made sense to me on that level.
Okay.
That's bias towards typical.
Yes. Yeah. The way we explain typical.
Right.
All positive explanations.
Yeah.
Good. All great questions.
So we know about hallucination.
Yeah.
So I wondered, especially for generating, we have a test. How do we know if AI?
I tested on myself. I told when the model first came out, I said, find me a paper I'd written of advertising in a recession. And it gave me a paper that I had not written that was not even advertising in a recession and in some journal where it was not published. So that's a classic case of hallucination. Now you're saying hallucination in coming up with ideas? Oh, yeah, because someone can read it. The second AI program can read it and tell you if this is feasible. And if it's not feasible, it's hallucination.
So we were talking about a very binary thing with good and bad. Could we eventually see this being something in the high, medium, low, or going even further into like a continuous matter to where we could have ideas that are definitely good, could need some more consideration, and then just bad? Or is this something that may or may not be useful in the future?
No. That's where the structure. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, that's where the structure comes in. That so when we do this, we have not only usefulness, we have a rating scale on each of these dimensions. So now we have structure. And that answers the other question too, which you had raised. And we can also, the beauty of this now with large language models, we can have 4 of them and check whether they're rating the same level and so on. And whether they're hallucinating and whether they're all coming up with the same rating. So what we do now in this is, it's no yes and no, it's not binary. It's give me a score. And depending on the client I'm working with, we can change the weights on these 4 dimensions and get different rankings. So we just rank the ideas. These are all great questions. Are we?
Around for a little longer. So if that's all we have.
There are a whole bunch of hands there. No,
There
I'm
were?
not kidding.
Really? It's true. How are your glasses these days?